We all have super productive days once in a while, and if you ever wondered how to live one every day, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to share 3 techniques to help you create consistency. Hey friend, and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Dan, and in this channel we explore the strategies and tools to become more effective and productive. So if you're anything like me, and you're always eager to learn more about productivity and performance, please consider subscribing to the channel. And now let's continue with this video. Remember those days where you'd work for 8 hours straight? Imagine you finish all the tasks of your week. I can tell you it feels awesome. You feel so excited that you want to do it again tomorrow. But you wake up the next day, there's no luck. You try to force yourself to do productive things, but you feel too drained to do anything. You don't even remember why you wanted to work in the first place. What happened? The problem is, it's easier said than done. If you try to push your limits without much thought, guess what happens? Crash. Some people call this burnout, and it's what happens when you push yourself beyond what you're used to. It works great for tight deadlines, but it's not something you could do every day. Or is it? You realize you can't keep the same pace, so you decide to take some time off and relax. And days later, you feel recovered to try again. But this time you second guess yourself. If I give my best, I'll be a winner today. But what will happen tomorrow? I can tell you that hard work feels rewarding. But we don't work for the sake of working. We want to get results. And when it comes to long-term goals, you need a balance between hard work and patience. It feels great to double your productivity for one day. But if you get tired and don't work for the next day, it's been all for nothing. For example, remember the best workout you've ever done. Sure, it felt great, but that didn't make your body stronger. Instead, you felt sore the next day. Had you skipped that workout, it wouldn't make any difference. So does that mean your work is for nothing? Yes and no. If you give your best today but do nothing tomorrow, you wasted your time. But if you push limits today and the next day and the next one, you're gonna succeed a lot faster. But is it sustainable? First things first, if you're focusing on results and don't have the habit of working, you're focusing on the wrong thing. If you don't change the focus, you're gonna underperform and feel frustrated. You won't have much energy left, and whenever you think of work, you're gonna feel dreadful. So how do we fix this? We first need to prioritize our actions and then care about the results. And that's where work intervals come into the picture. Let's get back to the beginning of this video. Those days where you give your best work for hours. If you think about it, you probably achieve more in those days than what you expected. You know that your work capacity isn't that high on average. Did you plan for it? No, you just started to work and things just flowed. The problem comes when you start the next day with those expectations. But if I really expected myself to work that long, I'd give up before that happens. You don't try to count more hours. You make the hours count by doing your best every hour. And that's what the high score strategy is about. Every hour you're gonna try to do the best work you can. And because of that challenge, it's a lot easier to enter the flow state. I know it's easier said than done. There's no way you're gonna beat your best mark every single hour. But we can get closer if we use a support strategy, work intervals. Here's what you're gonna need. A small task, something so simple you can do in 2 minutes. The session length. How long do you feel comfortable working? If you don't have a number, let's start with 20 minutes. Then, you're also gonna need a minimum goal. What's the least you need to do to be productive with that length? This should be easy to achieve, about 40% lower than your high score. And you're a high score. What's the most you've done with that session length? Those are the elements, and here's the script that puts them together. 1. Right now, do you have enough time for the session length? If you don't, you can reduce the length down to 20 minutes. But if you have less than that, find when you'll be available and block that time. 2. Do you have the focus to achieve the minimum within that time? If so, you're ready to start immediately. And while you work, you're gonna try to beat the high score. 3. When your session is over, you stop working. Because you have a high score and a time limit, it forces you to get as much work as possible. 4. Take a 5-minute break. Come back and ask yourself again. Do I have the focus to achieve the minimum? If it's a yes, you repeat the process. After a few times, your productivity will decrease. So if you can't meet the minimum, you take a 1-hour break. You then come back and go through the 4 conditions again. Now, if after the long break you're still not ready, that means one of 2 things. A, your minimum is too high, or B, you're doing the break wrong. But if you do it right, you will eventually beat your high score. And every time, it will be harder to beat it. When you find that it's too hard to beat your record, that's when you increase your session length. You then set a new minimum goal. As for the maximum capacity, that doesn't change, because it's the most work you allow yourself to do for that day. Now, I know there are many moving parts here, so let's make an example. You define your 2-minute task, which could be anything from writing a paragraph, making a sales call, replying to an email, or researching an article. Let's say your work length is 20 minutes, and your minimum goal is 4 2-minute tasks, but your high score is 7. As for the maximum capacity, you think 5 hours a day is enough, so you're gonna stop after that time. Now you go through the 4 conditions. Do I have the time? Yes. Can I meet the minimum? Yes, so you start working. After 20 minutes, you have completed 5 2-minute tasks. Great, you're ahead of the minimum, but you're still behind on your high score. As long as you haven't reached your maximum capacity, you just keep trying. So you take a break and try again. This time you achieve 7 2-minute tasks, but you don't think you can get any better. What do? You go from 20 to 30 minutes. Now you set your new minimum to 5 2-minute tasks. And with 30 minutes, you have enough time to set a new high score. And you repeat the process again. It's crazy how much you can scale if you think about it. Some people get into deep work for 4 hours straight. Others do even longer. That's how you perform at an elite level. But the question is, what's the best high score you can get? You see, you can only do as much as free time you have. If you spend it on our projects, that will limit how much you can progress on the main one. What happens when you do too many things is you don't progress fast enough in any of them, which is demotivating. But at the same time, you don't want to stop doing the things you enjoy. So what do? Do we need to sacrifice everything else? If you can do it, that's awesome. But if you don't want to, there's also good news. You can max out your work hours and still do what you love. All you need to do is add those extra projects to the someday list. Now, what's the someday list? It's a wait list that freezes all your other projects while you work on the main one. It means that for at least 30 days, you're not going to touch those tasks. But after that time, you can get back to it. And here's what you'll find. Your other projects weren't as urgent. You'll be more excited when you return. You can drop the ones you no longer care about, and you make more progress on the important task. It doesn't matter what you choose as long as it's only one thing. I can tell you deep work can be addictive, but if you want to crush it consistently every day, you have to respect your breaks as much as your work. There's no point in doing 3x work today if you take 3 days off after that. So how do we keep our energy levels as high as possible? Well, if you want to work at high intensity, your break time must be low intensity. Studies show that intense emotions for long periods of time are energy draining. It doesn't matter if you're stressed, angry, excited, or ecstatic. They all take a toll on your body. And that doesn't mean you should never feel those emotions, but when you're taking a break, look for a calming state instead. You're not working anyway, so there's no point in overstimulating your brain. If you're planning for a long work session, this makes a huge difference. You should, of course, sleep well, meditate, eat, work out, and all that stuff. But this one, it's a game changer. Think about it. They say we're the most productive in the morning, but we're also the calmest when we just wake up. Coincidence? I don't think so. Some days I just feel too reactive. But if I meditate for 6 minutes, for example, it helps my emotions to return to a neutral state. If you don't stop those emotions, you're gonna reach nighttime and your mind will still be in 50 different places. And I don't need to tell you how hard it is to focus with a bad night of sleep. If you think too much before bed, get your to-do list ready the night before. And to prevent stimulation, it helps to limit screen time a few hours before going to bed. It's hard to relax when you do so much. But there's one trick that has helped a lot. It may sound weird at first, but try to imagine your future life with all your yearly goals achieved. If you don't know how to do it, simply imagine it's the first day of your next vacation. How relaxed would you feel? You can now allow yourself not to think about work. And the next day, you're ready to crush it. So let's do a quick recap. Work with intervals, use the someday list, and rest like a professional. If you do it right, you basically have access to unlimited energy. You can beat your high score today, and then again tomorrow, and the next day. People will start wondering, how does he get so much done? Another hack that works for me is leaving the work half done and switching tasks. So if you reach 50% and take a break, you're much more likely to get back to work. Before you watch this video, you already knew how to be productive because you've done it before. And now you know the secret to make it repeatable. Not only that, but it gets easier to get things done over time as you create the habit. This also means you have extra energy to work on other projects you like. Those that you left on the someday list, for example. You can take this as far as you want, whether you prefer working 12 hours a day or 2. What matters now is how you use that time. And that's why I reviewed one of my favorite productivity books, Deep Work. If you really want to get things done in no time, I recommend that you check out that video. So I'll see you there. Bye bye.